Hello, KM6LYW radio viewers. I want to talk a little bit about audio cards today, especially as it relates to the DigiPi and Raspberry Pi in general. We've got a few of them here. But first, what I really need to do is thank you guys for making all of this possible. We've got new patrons. We got Jim, Brad, Doug, Foo. Hey, Foo, I got your call sign next to your name there. I got that email. And Jeff, thank you so much for being patrons of KM6LYW Radio. And of course, that is not to understate the huge amount of backing and resources provided by these guys. And I'm just not talking about being a patron. I'm talking about being active in the DigiPi groups and really helping be part of the KM6LYW radio community in developing amateur radio software. So thank you guys. But hey, let's get back to talking about cool audio cards. Now, when we talked about building the DigiPi, now that's this guy over here doing amateur radio kind of digital interface TNC stuff. Traditionally, we talk about having this FE-Pi audio card. This is called an FE-Pi, well, Audio Z V2 is what this is called. This has been hard to find. Luckily, Bud Churchwood has got the Gerber files, and he is still selling these. But you know, he does limited runs, right? And with all the supply chain issues, the FE-Pi that we talk about so much, that has the cool line in and line out, this can be hard to find. So if you go out to Krager.org/DigiPi, I made a shopping list for you guys. Let me see if I can pull it up here. So here's Krager.org/DigiPi. This is where you can get the DigiPi image. And somewhere there's a shopping list. And we've got two audio cards we can choose from now for the DigiPi project. We've got the FE-Pi Audio Z V2, and you get that from Bud, WB7FH. So click there, it'll take you here. And this is Bud's cool ordering form. I got it zoomed in pretty hard. It'll look like this. In fact, check out Bud's Nexus while you're there too. That's amazing. So just check how many FE-Pi cards you want. Don't go crazy. There's not too many. And it'll take a couple, 3 weeks sometimes for Bud to get runs back from China. So this is how you order it. So go to Krager.org/Patreon, go to the shopping list, and click on Bud's call sign, WB7FHC. And you'll get the FE-Pi Audio Z V2. That's the card I was just holding up. Now, alternatively, there's a new sound card called the audio-injector. You guys have been showing me that. So that is, in fact, on Amazon. It kind of comes and goes, but you can usually find it for a similar price, 20-something bucks. You know, honestly, these audio cards cost more than the Raspberry Pi themselves. But we really need them as a line-in device. So the audio-injector Z is cool because it has pins for line-in and line-out, or I shouldn't say pins, but holes. So you can actually solder wire through holes on this board for line-in and line-out. So this is the audio-injector 0 sound card. And of course, it fits on the Raspberry Pi really, really well. The third option that's actually here on the table, and this is an option I don't usually consider, is this is what most people think of when they want an audio device for a Raspberry Pi, something decent. And yeah, and these little C Media USB plugs. They have really good audio output here on the headphones, kind of line level stuff. The only problem with these is that this is an actual microphone. It is not a line level input. And so a lot of us using amateur radios with this DigiPi, we're using speaker outputs, which are pretty high voltage for a microphone input. Arnold at KQ6DI here in California, who runs a Digipeater, built a cool Digi that uses one of these, and he actually built a voltage divider. So you electronics majors will know what a voltage divider is. It's really just a couple of resistors to get those peak-to-peak voltages down to mic level, and then you can utilize these cheap little guys. And these are fairly easy to find. Get the C Media ones if you can. But you'd have to build a voltage divider really to make that microphone input work. And of course, we're going for clean and simple here on the DigiPi. So those are the three options for audio cards right now. The Audio Z is working right now on the DigiPi. If you do get the DigiPi image and build one of these with the Audio Z card, you're going to have to update the firmware on your Raspberry Pi. And then let me make sure I get the command right here. You're going to want to run the command rpi-update. Again, that's rpi-update. That'll update the firmware on your Raspberry Pi to support this hardware right out of the box. And of course, the software image supports it from a driver perspective. And there's just one line and one file you tweak to make the Raspberry Pi use this card or the audio injector, which is what's on there right now. In fact, I could probably pull the power to this guy. You know, you can pull the power on the DigiPi anytime you want. You notice that cool little screen there, right? That little, you remember guys, you can buy these tiny little screens. You don't need the full-size screen. I just put this one on here so you could see the audio card. You can kill the power on this guy. You can just kill the power. You don't have to do shutdown. A lot of you are yelling at me, hey, you need to shut it down first or you're going to corrupt your file system. And traditionally, that's true, but on the DigiPi, the file system is read-only, so it's really more like a firmware. So this is the Audio Injector Z. We're going to do front and back, do a Price is Right showcase. So this is the input here, and this is the output over here. So you can literally solder wires through these holes to get your line in, line out, you know, when you're making your radio interface cable, whatever that happens to be. And then, of course, on the back here, you should be able to see how I soldered this. And yeah, I think this is what this is pushed to the microphone output. So you can just run the wires right through the holes and solder them in. There's plenty of space, easy to get some grounds there if you want. And that is the Audio Injector Z. It's a new sound card that we can try with our DigiPi builds. And of course, if you haven't seen the DigiPi, see my other videos for that on how to build this whole thing. If you want a cool amateur radio digital transceiver for packet modes. All right, hopefully I didn't miss anything. If you guys have additional ideas for sound cards, I mean, I am listening. Right now it's these three right here that will really work well with amateur radio. Well, maybe not this guy unless we can figure out a voltage divider. You know, one thing I wanted to mention, like people are going to ask me, hey Craig, well, which one's the best, right? If you could, you know, all things being equal, what would you choose? I would still choose the FE-Pi over the Audio Injector for one reason and one reason only. And maybe it doesn't apply to you, but the input on the Audio Injector Z actually has a hardware cut of -6 dB. So if you're using a line level signal out of like a Yaesu 400 or Yaesu FTM 100, you'll notice your Direwolf volume levels just aren't as high as you can possibly get them, and you can't really adjust it on the radio, and you just can't get a Direwolf to read an average of 50, you know, on the volume levels. It'll read like 30 or so, and that's arguably okay, but to get the full dynamic range, you want Direwolf to be reading about 50 on the volume scale. So if you're using a radio with a speaker output, you could totally overload this and overcome that -6 dB cut. But if you're using a radio that has I don't know, maybe a discriminator output like the Yaesus I mentioned, you know, they're going to come in a little quiet when you use the audio injector, whereas with the FE-Pi, that's not an issue. It's a full line level input. Okay, that's it for audio cards today. Let me know what you guys think for audio cards. Maybe there's something else I'm missing. Maybe there's something that's even better. We'll figure something out. Hey, this is KM6LYW Radio, and I'm clear.